In Dragon Ball Super Chapter 82, Goku took a quick break from his battle against Gas and listened to an old scouter recording from his father saying, "Stay alive," triggering his formative memories of his now deceased parents. It is this event that put the final stamp on the redone origins of Goku's story, but now, Dragon Ball has now put itself on center stage to answer many questions that Dragon Ball fans wonder and have always wondered about Goku's early years. It all began in what we would later call Dragon Ball Z. Raditz arrives and is shocked to see that humanity is still intact and not wiped out by Goku. Now Goku and all of his friends are clearly shocked by this major news. Clearly, Goku was always different from other humans with his ability to transform into a great ape under a full moon, but for him to be an actual alien was totally out of the question. Until Master Roshi confirmed that Goku had a head injury and he was a pain for Grandpa Gohan to raise in his early years, showing that his Saiyan programming was intact and effective in his earlier years. And later on, Vegeta then further elaborated on Goku being a low-class Saiyan, and that is why he was sent to such a weak planet as a baby. Now here is where the first issue was created. How was a Saiyan baby supposed to survive on their own? It was never fully explained, but we just made the assumption that the Saiyan programming just helped them survive like a baby animal in the wild, and they just knew how to do so. But, as fans, we didn't put much thought into this and simply moved on. And that's all we really needed to hear. Goku was sent to Earth really young, and with the intention to kill everyone and sell the planet. He was the personification of Turles in the Tree of Might, the original evil Goku. But the more details were added to Goku's origins, the more things just started to fall out of place. Now, Bardock, the father of Goku, actually does a fairly good job of explaining Goku's origins, and if you were a Dragon Ball fan prior to Dragon Ball Minus, Dragon Ball Super Broly, and Dragon Ball Manga Chapter 82, this was our canon definition of who Goku's father was and how Goku got sent to Earth. And even though Bardock ended up dying, he saw visions of his son confronting Frieza, bringing the story full circle. And Toriyama himself respected Nakatsuru's design of Bardock, and also the story adaptation enough that he even included it into the original Dragon Ball manga when Goku was fighting against Frieza. So for us, this was Goku's story, and this was who Goku's father was, and we didn't really care about who Goku's mother was. However, this TV special did create a second problem that Dragon Ball fans discussed for years. You see, at this point we knew Goku was sent to Earth as a baby, but this time we actually got to see it in the TV special, and the issue with this is that the Goku that Grandpa Gohan finds seems to be an innocent, happy baby with no signs of being programmed to do evil. Now, of course, you can say that it's just a baby and his brain is still developing, but if he's supposed to follow the programming and hadn't hit his head yet, he should still be a hostile creature. So of course, as the loyal Dragon Ball fans that we are, we ignored both of these issues and continued loving Dragon Ball regardless. But there is something in life called money, and with great money comes great bullshit. Enter Dragon Ball Minus. Now let's give Dragon Ball Minus some credit. They managed to fix one of the issues regarding Goku by making him a toddler as opposed to an infant. This made it more believable for a Saiyan to survive when you consider that Gohan was 4 when Piccolo forced him to survive on his own, and when you compare that to Goku and what Gine said in Dragon Ball Minus, Goku was 3, so it's more believable that he could actually survive. To give Minus more credit, they also managed to fix another issue by retaining the more aggressive Goku when we see him in a flashback with Grandpa Gohan when he's eating aggressively, and Grandpa Gohan actually talks about the difficulties in raising Goku. Gohan specifically said that if he wasn't a martial artist, that it would have been very difficult to control Goku, showing that the Saiyan programming was in full effect. And last but not least, Minus also indirectly explained why Raditz wasn't fully informed of Goku's situation, because he was on a separate planet with Vegeta, and as a child he wouldn't be able to fully comprehend what had happened to his planet, and why exactly Goku was sent to Earth. However, there is an issue with Dragon Ball Minus, and this is the fact that it had to completely change the nature of Bardock in order to write the story that it wanted. From the very little that we've heard about Saiyan culture from Vegeta and the bit that we saw in Bardock the father of Goku, Saiyans live in a total patriarchal society as compared to the evolving Western culture we assume most of you watching this are from. So the concept of love and caring for your offspring were basically non-existent. Women were depicted as pure sex objects as compared to Earth's women in Dragon Ball, so the fact that Gine changed Bardock's heart and made him care about his son is a stark contrast from the original Bardock that we saw. So from a narrative point of view, there was really no other way to introduce Goku's mother as a character we cared about other than going in this direction. You see, when characters are introduced in such small stories, you only have a few pages to make the audience care. Take for example the Trunks the Lone Warrior chapter. In just a few pages we managed to understand a fraction of the horrific future that Trunks lived in and how much Gohan meant to him. So with Gine, she was paired up with Bardock as a more traditional couple in order to give her character some sense of substance. Especially since Dragon Ball Super Broly retained Bardock's ending struggle against Frieza to bring everything back full circle, with the only difference being his inability to see the future. So this way, Gine doesn't end up being like Seripa, also known as Fasha in the English dub. And for those of you who don't know, prior to this super era of Dragon Ball, it was a very common fan theory that Fasha was Goku's mom. If you don't believe it, check out this old Kanzenshu post from 2013. There was never any real rationale for this theory except that she was in Bardock's group, and it's possible that at some point Bardock just tapped it. And because she was literally the only named female Saiyan that was around Bardock, it made her the subject for this theory since we really couldn't think of anybody else that could have given birth to Goku. And just to give you a better taste of how popular this topic was back then, the most popular video ever uploaded to this channel was Who is Goku's Mother, with nearly 5 million views, uploaded when we first found out that Gine was actually Goku's mother. So discussing Goku's mother was definitely a big theory in the Dragon Ball community for years, but people who have gotten accustomed to this newer era of Dragon Ball are so used to Gine that they wouldn't have realized how much this was actually talked about. But for all sakes and purposes, imagine that Fasha was really Goku's mother. Just a typical fighting Saiyan in Bardock's group who died that no one really cares about. That would be boring, right? And if Gine was a strong female Saiyan warrior that could fight the strongest of Frieza's elites, then she would basically be a Mary Sue just to be strong because. So Dragon Ball Minus managed to take on the monumental task of taking a character who isn't a fighter and making us care somewhat about her with more relatable human characteristics. But in doing so, they make it very clear that she and Bardock are the exception to Saiyan culture so that they can get away with changing Bardock's Saiyan nature and how traditional Saiyan couples are supposed to work on Planet Vegeta. But here's the scary truth. Goku remembering his parents creates the opportunity to dive deeper into his past and to learn more about his earlier years and his parents. And as a Dragon Ball fan, that might sound enticing. But as we've discussed before, the problem with this is that it can open up a can of worms that will make certain aspects of his origins irrelevant or nonsensical. Then, new content has to resurface and re-explain things all over again. Every time you touch characters who were from the past, you are risking major continuity errors that may come and resurface afterwards, and just like time travel, the further back you go, the more history can go out of sync. And because Bardock and Broly have gotten so popular over the last few years, Dragon Ball is willing to take these continuity risks even if it means offsetting the story that we got used to for so many years. This is just like Occam's razor that states the simplest solution is always the best. In this case, the simplest explanation was definitely the best, since we wouldn't have needed 2 decades of Dragon Ball content to try and make sense out of everything. And this now leaves a future problem. With new chapters coming out in Dragon Ball Super, there's a very good possibility that there's going to be something new that comes out that might contradict or bring up questions about Goku's origin story all over again. And us as Dragon Ball fans are going to have to go through the work of piecing together these puzzle pieces to understand what exactly happened in Goku's earlier years when this shouldn't be rocket science. But the question is now left up to you. Do you prefer the old days of Dragon Ball where you didn't have to think much about Goku's origins and just enjoyed the fights and the story? Or do you want new characters and changes to be reincorporated and to rewrite the series itself? You say so in the comment section below. Either way, if you enjoy Saiyan themed videos, you're definitely gonna want to check out the history of how Goku became an alien in Dragon Ball, or the evolution of Goku and Vegeta's rivalry. And if you want something more theoretical, check out What If Vegeta Actually Spared Nappa. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.